Hey. We got your mojo working. Hey, this is Counselor Curtis. This is the Jimmy Doane Show. I'm here with Jimmy Doane.
Hi there.
We are here twice a week these days, as you can see from the screen. 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Wednesdays and Sundays at the Jimmy Doane channel, Jimmy Doane on YouTube. So please tune in, bring a friend, share a video. And today is the 4th of July.
And you might mention, by the way, that it's 4 o'clock Eastern Time, and the reason is it's standard, of course, is it won't be that come late October whenever we switch over to daylight time.
Right.
So just Eastern Time, you see, is what, I suppose we can change the message to Eastern Daylight Time when it happens, but...
Right.
But anyway, I just want to make sure they don't stay on Eastern Standard Time in November, because then they'll miss us.
Well, we're getting rid of that whole system anyway, right?
Okay. All right. That's good. Anyways, July 4th.
Yes.
Celebration Day. Mostly I'm celebrating the fact that Gina Lollobrigida Day is 91.
Who?
Gina... Who?
Who? Wait, I didn't hear what you said.
Gina Lollobrigida.
Okay, I did hear who you said. I have no idea who that is.
You're kidding me. Gina Lollobrigida was a famous Italian actress, gorgeous babe.
In the 18th century?
In the 60s. And she was with Sophia Loren.
Okay.
They vied with each other, sort of. And she was in some of the comedy movies.
Sophia Loren won, obviously.
Well, if you remember her name, yeah. But anyway, the fact is that, I mean, the thing that makes you feel old is that Gina is 91. And, I'm sitting here thinking, holy... Because, I remember when she was 25 or something.
Right.
And I'm going like...
Ooh.
So I don't know if I didn't get a picture to see if she's aged well. Sophia has. She looks pretty good. I think she's got to be in her 80s.
Where is our age reversing technology?
Come on, big pharma. Well,
yeah,
they're maybe
right. The new medicine.
The new medicines. That's right. Now, what's interesting is that July 4th, of course, is Independence Day, when we declared. The Declaration of Independence didn't actually become independent, obviously, for another 13 years. Yeah, no, that's true. Had to fight a war and everything. But what's interesting is that the actual meaning of the 4th of July is secessionist. We seceded. We indicated our independence from the Brits. And of course, then later on...
the Limeys.
Yeah, well, that's right. And of course, they sent the finest army in the world over here to try and beat us. And we almost didn't make it on a couple of occasions. But it's interesting, since then, secessionist attempts have failed miserably. Crushed
mercilessly.
That's right. But that's the tradition of this country.
Yeah, well, I think they wrote a Declaration of Independence of the South when the Civil War.
Oh, they even wrote their own constitution.
Right. But I think they mimicked the same thing. We the people. Went in the course of human events.
Right.
Type of a thing.
So we've always talked about
that today.
Yeah, right. California, good luck.
We'll see.
Yeah, Texas, whatever they want to do it. Okay. Well, anyway, it's the 4th of July, and not much happening. I don't know if everybody's tuned in. They're probably out getting ready to shoot off their fireworks or whatever.
But hopefully they're not getting rained out here.
We had some rain, right? And of course, here in Gainesville, if you have any more than a match or a sparkler, they rates everything. They throw you in jail. The idea end up a rocket, and of course, the fire chief and everybody else are saying it's for the public safety, and so we're gonna put you in the Iron Bar Hotel as your public safety. So make sure you don't hurt yourself or hurt anybody else.
Yeah.
Okay. The big news. One of the pieces of big news today is that the Republicans owned, if you want to call it, Senate Intelligence Committee said on Tuesday that it agreed with the U.S. intelligence agency's assessment that the Russian government tried to boost President Donald Trump in the 2016 presidential election and weaken Hillary Clinton. Now, they didn't say anything about collusion. What they just said was, maybe with not the tweets, but the 140 Facebook phony Facebook people or whatever it is that were doing
Yeah,
this.
yeah, the bots.
Bots, right? That's right, the bots. And so anyway, what happened is they agreed with the last year's January a year ago report that said that they had meddled. Well, of course, I'm sitting there thinking, so
duh.
what? Yeah, so well, duh, and so what? I mean,
Right.
it's not like, it's interesting. This is the pot calling the pot calling the kettle, tan or brown or something, because it's not like we don't meddle in there. I mean, Obama, for God's sakes, went over to England and championed against Brexit. I mean, in London.
Right. Well, and we had Netanyahu for something, right?
Yeah, Netanyahu was here. Joint session of Congress.
Sure.
And
no, well, look, I think this is just more of the same politics. I would bet that the people who are bringing this up are anti-Trump, never Trump people.
Duh.
Right. And so, look, here's what you can count on. The election for the United States for the president is enormous in terms of the effect that it has on the rest of the world.
Right.
So I would imagine that every country, it must look like the spy scene from Pink Panther 3 when all the spies are trying to kill Clouseau in the bar. I mean, that's what it's. I would imagine the end of the season, the voting situation.
And I don't know how many voting stations, millions.
Oh yeah.
And so you have to tap into every one of them in order to
Well, look, there are already massive organizations scattered throughout the United States whose entire job it is to influence those elections.
Right, exactly.
So why it would be that there isn't a group like that in Russia and in Ukraine and in England and every other place that would want to do the same thing.
Israel.
Right, sure.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, again, like I said, it might not have anything to do with Trump. It might have all been just anti-Hillary. They might have promoted whoever was against her.
That could have been.
So
one of the things that you do find out, of course, what is, as you say, it is at least right now until the collapse of the empire. But right now, you go to any country and ask a native of that country who's the president of the United States, and 99% of them know who it is. But if you ask any American who's the president of any other country, and blank, I mean, no idea.
I mean, that's because we have all the TVs, and so we do. We have all the broadcast stations. That is to say, we're the ones putting out information in droves. I would bet if you were to measure the information output of the United States versus the rest of the world, we're probably on par or greater than the rest of the world combined. So
well, again, though, but what I'm saying is that if we have information input with all the TVs, you'd think that part of it would be what is somebody doing from, not Borneo, but Japan. I mean, can you name we can maybe,
right.
But Japan, France, but Iceland, or or Great Britain, you can do, but you can get them confused.
Sure.
I mean, everybody knows Putin, of course, but
right.
but there are 193 countries or whatever.
Right,
so.
Right. Well, I mean, for anybody who's not actively involved in world politics, to remember more than the top 20 or 30, I think would be
20 or 30. How about the top 1 or 2? I mean, seriously,
well, like
even in this country, if you ask,
I would bet a lot of people could name Putin.
No, I agree with you.
Okay.
Putin, I understand that, but I mean May or whoever it is, or
no, yeah, well, maybe Merkel, or yeah, I mean,
okay, Merkel maybe, but not the guy from France. Not even, of course, certainly not the new guy in Mexico.
Right. Well, they're not the new guy.
Yeah, new guy. Nobody knows that, and
they might know Vincente.
Yep. So but it would be, even in this country, we coming up here today, we're trying to name all the justices on the Supreme Court,
right.
And we missed one.
Yeah. For a couple of minutes.
For a couple of minutes. Well, Google, whatever.
Right.
But seriously, we missed one totally.
Right.
But I mean, if you go seriously on any campus here,
sorry, Mr. Alito.
yeah, right. Sorry, right. We didn't get but it's interesting. If you, as you know, they have the Waters World or some of these places where they'll go on, the UCLA campus, and they'll ask questions. Can you name two?
All right, look, I'm going to push back on this whole narrative here.
Okay.
If you think about it, we Googled the answer and came up with it 2 minutes later. So we totally reinformed ourselves in a matter of minutes. And I think everybody in the United States does that. If there's ever a conversation these days about, hey, who's this or that or something, everybody's just flipping out their Google phone.
Well,
people get criticized for using their phones all the time, but geez, it's information source on so many levels. And I think Americans are doing a lot more of that. I mean, when you look at Waters World and those guys who go to those universities and ask those questions, you have to believe they cherry pick the best answers.
They claim they don't.
Man, if they don't, that they're crazy not to, because you could get a lot pithier show if you just pick the real crazy people.
But still, you could also pick the people that really knew. You could balance it off.
Yeah. Well, you do it like American Idol does it, okay? You sprinkle in some of the people who can absolutely sing with some of the people who just can't even carry a tune.
Right.
Just for show people, and then there's the actual singers, and that's how you do it. So, but I think as a group, I would put us up there as being widely informed. Now, that is to say,
you mean you and me?
Well, no, I mean the Americans. And look, well, think about this though. You measure it against stuff like the Europeans. Well, they're a lot more cohesive group over there. I mean, if somebody in Germany knows who the Prime Minister of France is, okay, I get that. It's because it's the next door state. So, okay, I would bet a lot of people, certainly from Minnesota and Michigan and Montana, can name Trudeau up there on their border, and probably the people in Texas.
Because he's an idiot. He's been all over the news because he's an idiot.
No, he's a totally well-meaning socialist.
I understand that. Well-meaning, still, he's an idiot. No, it's.
But we'll see. Anyway, we're just yapping about it.
Yeah.
So. Anything? I mean, you start on the 4th of July.
Yeah. Well, what happens on the 4th of July? What's interesting is, of course, everybody's a patriot. Mm-hmm. I mean, they are zealot patriots.
Woo-hoo.
And
hey man,
and as I say,
red here.
All I said, yeah. Well, I got I have some in here.
You got your Route 66.
My Route 66, right? Old America, whatever shirt on. But it is some of it is really over the top patriotism and. I mean, that's fine for the day and everything, but
sure. I mean, what's over the top? A really big firework? I mean, we were talking earlier. I mean, fireworks 30 years ago were dangerous. I mean,
the headline today in our local paper was, at least somebody's going to lose a finger.
Okay.
And yeah.
Actually, the truth is not necessarily. You think about like the Golden Gate Bridge, you might assume at least one person's going to die on that project. Nope. Didn't happen.
Really?
Didn't lose a man.
Well, they had a big net, right, to catch him?
Oh, I'm sure they had lots of stuff.
Yeah.
And people might have fell, and there could have been lots of, injuries that are grave, whatever thing, but I don't think they lost a guy. And you would think. And so, I mean, that's the kind of thing that, you're going to lose a finger. Well, maybe not. Look, everybody's watching out.
Yeah. And well, again, this is what I call the Darwinianism. They have the Darwin Awards every year,
right?
Where somebody does something. I saw one on Facebook the other day where some guy decided to light off a bottle rocket in his mouth.
Oh God!
No, I'm seriously. I mean, it looked like a college student. It looked like a regular guy, and glasses.
Right?
You kidding me? Okay. Another thing is with the Trump. We're going to continue on with Trump. The Trump administration's decision to join a conservative lawsuit challenging some of the most popular parts of the Affordable Care Act continues to be the gift that keeps on giving for the Democrats. And what it is, as you know, as Trump decides to roll back various regulations, that's what they're going to probably. I don't know what they're going to run. Of course, we don't know what the scandal du jour is going to be come the midterms. But what they're gaming up for now is, oh gosh, they're going to take away your health care. People are going to die. and because they want to get rid of some of the things, in the Affordable Care Act. So the Democrats, as far as they're concerned, oh boy, we got him now. We're going to run on this and clean house, and we're going to get the Senate and the House.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see, exactly right.
Blue wave, that's it.
Well, it's interesting. The Justice Department, of course, now has switched over a little bit, and it threw its support behind it, arguing that Obamacare's protections for people with pre-existing conditions is unconstitutional.
Who?
Our Justice Department.
Why are they promulgating an opinion on Obamacare?
Because now it's not Obamacare anymore. I mean, it's the Trump Justice Department has decided that Obamacare, parts of it, are unconstitutional. You can imagine if it were still the Obama administration, they would never do this. Right. But as you know,
I'm just wondering under what circumstances they came to render this opinion. Advisory opinion of some type.
Something like that. I mean, they've decided that it's and they've just. I guess maybe they've decided that a fee is a fee and not a tax. Right. Thank you, Roberts, or whatever it is, Justice Roberts. So, I don't know, but again, we'll see. And the idea is they've already taken a couple of the provisions of Obamacare out, and so once they get rid of the mandate or the other, some of this other stuff, it's going to decimate it completely. I mean, if they ever get rid of the pre-existing condition business, that'll be it. As far as that's what that's one of those things that it makes no sense at all. Wouldn't you love to be able to buy fire insurance for your house as it burned to the ground?
Yeah, I'm with you. Being able to insure yourself against having something that you already have is really an excellent deal.
Yeah, no, and not only that, I remember,
I'll take the full coverage, please.
Yeah, well, I thought it was interesting that, for instance, when I went to get, this is years and years ago, I went to get insurance, and the insurance was going to be higher because back then I wasn't sick, I was feeling brigade, but I smoked. So they said, we're adjusting your insurance. So, don't do that anymore, but now, of course, I've got new lungs, so that's good. Okay, the next item, another Trump item, and we'll get to the big thing that I want to talk about today has to do with Google. But the Trump administration will begin, this is really fascinating, will begin directing schools and colleges to adopt race-neutral admission standards. The Education Department said Tuesday, that's Betsy DeVos, who's most hated person just about in there, reversing Obama-era guidelines that encourage the use of race as one of the definitive things for various, all kinds of schools. The Obama guidelines issued jointly by the Education and Justice Departments laid out legal recommendations for schools looking to use race as an admissions factor. And of course that was fought all up and down. I think it might have even gone to the Supreme Court a couple of times, and it was one of those things where they hemmed and hawed and hedged and everything, and because
it's allowed. It's totally allowed right now. You're totally allowed to.
But I think there's some caveats. I don't think you can do that 100%. I don't think you can look at somebody and say, because you're black, you get in.
I think you still can, and you might have to make some argument that there's
you have to rationalize it somehow.
The two people are the same otherwise, or something, or.
Well, what was the one years ago where the white guy sued because he had either better grades or same grades or whatever it was, and that was long ago. That was 10 years ago.
But didn't he lose?
Yeah, he lost. Right, that's the whole point. He lost. That's when it came up that you could use that. Well, somebody sued after that, I believe, and they backed off a little bit, and they said it can be part of what you do.
Right. Well, okay, but no, from my perspective. As a private institution, you should be able to use whatever criteria you want to use. But what we don't want is incentives built into the legal structure for people to favor one group of Americans, any category, over any other category of Americans. Or because otherwise that undermines our equality under the law.
Well, you said private institution. I don't know for sure, but most of these suits that have showed up have been on public institutions.
Okay.
And of course they are under strict because they're government owned,
Right.
basically. And the private institutions, I imagine, have some kind of leeway. As an example, I think we might have talked about this last week, was the Harvard has been dissing Asian students.
Well, I heard that report, and what the report that I heard was, and if this is the same one that you heard, was that they rated those Asian students at, excuse me, spit my tongue. They rated those Asian students as lower on their personality metric.
Ah.
And so...
Right, yes, you're right.
And so, to me, that's a perfectly legitimate metric of success. If you're...
Okay.
And again, it's Harvard. It's a private college.
Right. That's
if they want to have all women, go for it. As far as I'm concerned, or all men, or whatever you want to do. But as long as they're not being paid to exclude, if they get a government kickback or a tax credit for kicking out Asians or something, that's what you don't want.
Okay.
Is some sort of institutionalized inequality.
What happens if you have a huge private donor that sets up an Asian institute in one of
Well, go for it.
Okay,
It's all going to come out in the wash. You're
Right.
going to have the same. You're going to have white donors and black donors and Asian donors and whatever kind of donors. People are going to line up, and where there's a deficiency, there'll be a group that fills that need. If people would just let it happen.
Well, of course, you wondered along those same lines here at the University of Florida. We've got a Hispanic building,
Right.
and we have what's the other one? We have a Hispanic and another group. I forget what it is.
We've got a whole international.
Yeah, but we have an
section
international
building.
building, but we have some that are specifically designed. I mean, if I were to walk into the Hispanic building, I might wonder what I was doing there.
There's a Central American Studies building and a South American Studies building and such. But I mean, that's a...
And there's a black one too, of course.
Sure, of course. The public university is, as we argue all the time, is just a huge... It just shouldn't be operated. Public universities just shouldn't be. If it's so valuable, they should sell it and let the private people operate it, and let those degrees be valuable, and the alumnus contribute, or the alumni contribute back to the school, and that's how it's a viable institution.
Right.
Versus what we have here, which is a government system.
Right. Well, not only that, you got to ask yourself when somebody shows up and says, "I want to get a job in lesbian studies or something." I mean, a course, take courses in women or whatever it might be. Why doesn't in a private institution they might say, first of all, we don't really order because there's no market for that.
Well, right. That's what's happened in the public universities. I would argue is there's a huge disconnect between the marketplace and the people that they're producing in terms of, like you said, what can you do?
What are you going to do when you get out of here?
Right, exactly.
And how are you going to pay off those student loans again?
Right, and so and that whole industry has, of course, been subsidized by low interest loans and a big push like that. But to bring it back to the race situation, what you were talking about, if this school does it, it's different than if a private institution were to do it.
Right.
Or excuse me, different from, because obviously it's fully funded by
taxpayer.
Right. Exactly.
Well, there is some. There are some fees, but basically
there is a big donor portion of it. There are a bunch of alumni who contribute to the university.
Well, most of them contribute to the football team.
Well, and anyway, those would be the ones who would support the institution anyway.
Yeah.
If were it not to be supported by the public.
Yeah. Well, and of course the students do have to pick up some of the tab, but it's not much.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's as much as the grants that they get.
No.
I think
it didn't. Anyway, had decades of lawsuits, it says here, to continue on, and
right. Well, the question that I always have for the people who advocate institutionalized race equalization, that is to say, boosting one race in order to put it back into the position of equality in society relative to the other races. That's the goal of affirmative action, for example, right?
Well, you're talking about, what it is the goal is, unfortunately, the socialist goal is always to force equal outcome.
Right.
Instead of equal, opportunity.
Right. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. That's what I thought you said.
even given that, my question is, at what point do we do a measurement and say this is the outcome, and within what degree of equality do we say we have achieved equality, and then do we then stop the programs after that? That is to say, you have to at some point get back to equality under the law.
Well, where this came up recently, of course, was when North or South Carolina or somebody said, please lift our restrictions of government oversight on our race relations in the primary and secondary schools. And there was a big hoorah about that, and the people came out and says, we haven't achieved it, no, you can't do that. We have to have the government oversight still, because we haven't achieved any kind of equality. That was what the government did for years, right after the affirmative action plan was started. They had 7 southern states or whatever.
I think the court, though, in that situation, came back and said that the states could begin to back off.
Right. They did, but there was a big backlash from that.
Right.
There was a vested interest group that said, no, don't do that. We have to keep it, blah, blah, blah. So, I don't know what the outcome has been so far, but boy, talk about the government creating two sides to fight each other out. It's,
all right, what else we got here?
Wait a minute, just a little now. Give me just a minute here. So anyway, the deal is Trump officials are reposting a Bush administration document strongly encouraging the use of race-neutral methods of admitting students to elementary and secondary schools. So once you get, quote, race-neutral, the what do you call it? The people that aren't race-neutral, not the bigots, but what do you call them? The racists will come out of the woodwork and say, let's go back to. Seriously, these.
Well, sure, but that's why you push for race-neutral stuff.
Yeah, well, unfortunately. Okay, now let me just tell you. Let's see. This is one thing that's kind of interesting. Before I get to the major thing that I want to talk about today on Google, on the Thai soccer team, which is one of the things we have about 24-hour news cycle is the most trivial things happening, God knows, far away. Are go around and around and around, and one of the reasons is the Thai soccer team has been in this cave. There was a flash flood. And it basically they're okay, but apparently there's like a half a mile of water between them and the exit. They were down a mile or something like that.
And most of them can't swim.
Most of them can't swim. A bunch of kids,
right.
Basically. And who can swim for half a mile underwater anyway?
Well, at least if you have scuba tanks, I guess.
Right. Well, they're doing all that. If you've seen the videos, there's hundreds of people down there trying to do this. Trying to do whatever. They're pumping the water out.
Right.
They're doing it. Okay, but what's interesting is what I've seen about this. There are two things to remember. One of the things that makes for a story, an ongoing, continuing story, where the guy comes on site from all the different networks is now and brings you an update. And boy, the longer you out, it's just forever. And one of the fabulous movies was a Kirk Douglas movie years ago called. It was called, oh God, what I just forgot it. Ace in the Hole. Ace in the Hole. And this is what I've always talked about, is the little girl in the mine shaft. Mm-hmm. And what happened was...
They're literally...
literally, right. So, but what happened was this guy, Kirk Douglas or whatever, he was a newspaper reporter, I think. And so he actually actively made sure that she stayed, or the guy or whoever was, stayed down there until she died. He wasn't. That was not the goal.
Right.
But he somehow reported out whatever the thing was, and so they took some other measures. Shouldn't you dig over here? Whatever it was, I forget what it was. But this is what I've always called is the story that will keep everybody glued to their television sets. And normally, as I say, and also on a 24-hour news cycle, you've got 24 hours a day that you have to fill up. Mm-hmm. And what better thing than you get the video camera crews down there and all the satellite dishes and everything. I saw a video of it, and there's hundreds of people down there, police, workers, nurses, everything. Now, what's interesting about this is that, I don't know how far back they are, but the rescue, heavy rains are working against them, and it says the rescue could take months. I mean, wait a minute. We're talking about, what are there, 13 people down there, or 20 people, or something like that? Was a leader and a bunch of the kids or something? But anyway, what it is, and they talked, when I saw the video, they're all going down there with the tanks and everything. But are you kidding me? A month? Months? They're going to haul these kids, they're going to be down there?
Maybe that's the old sensationalism pitch.
Well, whatever. And now, I mean, what's interesting is...
I can't imagine it's going to take them more than a month.
More than a month?
That's what I said. It's already been 2 weeks, hasn't it?
It's been at least a week.
Okay.
Maybe 2, yeah. It took them a little while to find out they were down there.
Okay.
I mean, they survived, what, a week or two with nothing.
I noticed in the pictures, they've all got those tinfoil emergency blankets.
Right, right.
So they've obviously brought them supplies.
Oh, yeah, no. They're bringing us... There are scuba... There's a bunch of scuba people running back and forth.
Right.
I guess bringing them food.
You know who could go over there and save them is Jack Rhodes.
Yes.
What you do is you put Jack Rhodes with a little one of those little little propeller things, and he can scooch into. He can scooch into, relatively speaking. He's like tie size.
Yeah.
And he could get in there in a way that they could get back out.
Well, I mean, it's hard to believe, but I was talking to Mrs. Jimmy, who also has done scuba on the vacation scuba. Where that's where you hold on to the instructor the whole time, and,
right.
And you go into the swimming pool for an hour or two and learn how to breathe out or breathe in or something. But Mrs. Jimmy thought she was going to go down 2 or 3 feet, and the instructor took her down like 30 feet. She had no clue, and so she's been down like 2 or 3 times on the vacation scuba. But these kids have never been down.
Yeah, well,
and of course, Mrs. Jimmy can swim. I mean, she's a champion swim. She had to swim. If she had to ditch all the scuba stuff and float to the top and swim back to shore, she could have done it. Mm-hmm. But these little Thai kids, they're like miniature guys, and for them to scrap on a 100-pound scuba tank and then
you get a little tiny one. You get those little rescue tanks, the ones that you place along your route when you're doing cave diving.
Really? I didn't know those.
Yeah, little like they're about this big, and
well, what about the James Bond one that just fits in your mouth?
Yeah. Batman had one of those too.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay, fine. That's great. So anyway,
you know what that was? That was we're gonna get razzed. That was Star Wars. Remember when?
That's right. It was. Yes. Yes, that was that the one with Jar Jar Hinks?
Yeah.
Jar Jar Binks. Yes. Okay.
Oh my God! I can't believe we said that name on our podcast.
Yeah. Right. Okay. That's it. It'll now be banned from YouTube. Okay. Now the thing I really want to talk about today, unless you got something specific.
No. Go ahead.
Okay. Was the thing I really want to talk about is. Let me just put this over here. Never in the history of the world has a single company had so much control over what people know and think. Yet Washington has been recognized Google's power is a problem, and much less to embrace the obvious solution, breaking them up.
The obvious solution, kill.
Yeah, right. That's the. What is amazing, and they go in here to quote some statistics. But they talk about the monopoly power. But what's interesting is Google doesn't have any guns.
No,
and if you think Google is huge with 71 billion or 200 or whatever it is, $750 billion net market cap, how about a company with a $5 trillion market cap and guns and lots of guns?
Right.
I mean,
yeah, but they're benevolent. They're led by benevolent, good people.
Well, they were talking about
just
Google
acting altruistically.
Right. Yes. All right. Well, not only that, Google currently accounts for something like 90% of the search engines stuff, according to some statistic. Let's see. It says they influence about 70% of all internet traffic. Not coincidentally, 2 companies, and I forget, that form a duopoly that gets 73% of digital advertising. I guess the other one is Facebook. and virtually all growth in ad spending.
Duopoly. That is the dumbest thing. That's literally an oxymoron.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole point of the opoly part is that you know, you can't have that one if one is in competition with another, and this is what undermines their entire point, really.
Oh, it goes on.
Both of these two companies didn't even exist 20 years ago. Didn't even exist.
No, heck.
Facebook was like 12 or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And yeah, so Google might have been Google Beta, but certainly it was Ask Jeeves or something.
There was a version of Big Bang Theory where Sheldon sat down with one of the other guys, and they were naming all of the expired search engines, and they had a contest on who could name the most. You know, and there was like 14 of them or something. I mean, I knew about half of them, but but if you asked me to name them right now, like you say, Ask Jeeves and you know who else, but and
there were a bunch at the time, and nobody knew who was gonna make it work. But I remember searching for stuff on Ask Jeeves, and you'd put in YouTube Jimmy Doane, and you would come back with Canada Fish or something. You know, what are you doing?
Well, you realize, of course, you remember in 96 or 97, Netscape went from $20 a share to $180.
Okay. And
that was one of the first, search, and that was dial-up.
Right.
So, I mean, it was. So my point is that, and they've been eclipsed completely. Now right now you've got Google Chrome and Firefox.
Well, those are browsers.
But I mean they also have
like Bing.
Right.
And AOL has a search engine.
And Yahoo has one.
Right.
So. But they said that, for instance, search engine market share for 2018, Baidu 2%, others 2.5%, Bing 3.2%, Yahoo 2.0%. So the point is that as we've seen so many times, the United States government is going to go in and figure out winners and losers. You sit there and think, this is what if they get away with that. What's interesting to see to me is they don't trust the market. As soon as something gets a little bit large, they want to step in. Well, of course, what's happened is the next thing that happens. Google's power is bound to grow still more. Last year, it spent more on federal lobbying than any other company. It spent I forget exactly how much. Let's see how much Google spent, but. It was Alphabet, spent $18.1 million on federal lobbying. Now, you think about it for a second. You've got a trillions of dollar budget, and so they spent $18.1 million on lobbyists and stuff. Amazon spent $13 million, Facebook $11.5, Microsoft $8.6, and Apple 7.1 million. Excuse me. And that's from some source called Open Secrets. So they're all up there because they're panic stricken. Obviously, if the federal government gets in, I don't know if they're in there saying, "Help us," because these other guys are
or don't hurt us.
Don't hurt us. Well, that's the main thing. Don't hurt us.
Right.
Yeah, both. Oh, for sure.
Right.
Both. If there are any regulations, make sure
that's it.
That doesn't hurt.
You probably got a bunch of people scouting out in the committees for what's going through and what the tenor is, and have the temperature of the attitudes of the various Congress people and such about their
Well, it's interesting because in Europe, they had taken much more proactive effect to control Facebook and Google. They just fined Google, I don't know, a couple of $1 billion, I think, for something. And now they got some new privacy laws just kicked in, supposedly, that on Facebook, that they were all panicky about. And of course, this little scandal where 77 million names or whatever got out on this thing, that didn't help them any. But they apologized, blah blah, whatever. To me, the way I look at it is anymore. If you think you're private, if you got privacy, I don't care who you are, and even when you, as anybody will tell you, if you stop Facebook, get off, do anything, your data is still there someplace. So the internet never forgets. It's like the huge elephant.
And it's always learning and getting better.
So anyway, in the meantime, Google, when it can't beat competitors, it buys them, has done more than 200 times since going public. And of course, usually that brings on the antitrust people when they start buying up the competition. But the competition, the problem that I see, and I've always thought that antitrust was BS, and the reason being that, as we've just mentioned, a dozen years ago, there were all kinds of competitors. One has come out so far, like the Rockefellers did, or the Carnegies, or whatever. But that is all eclipsed by new stuff.
Right.
But you have to let the market do its thing and not step in and squash innovation. And so, and of course, the thing about it is, as somebody once said, whether you like it or not, you may think that Google is, they target your ads. They do whatever they do, but it's convenient as hell. They know pretty much what you're going to search for. It's free, and of course it's got some ancillary stuff. Google Notes or Google whatever Google Mail and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, okay, but it's private, and I just can't help but think that I know this, that if there's any abuses that show up, since they don't have a gun, people will move off. Right now, for instance, they've made on some of the browsers, and you can get DuckDuckGo or something, and the deal being that if you want anonymity,
right, and
even Google has a go on privately,
right.
So it doesn't. And what I did the other day, of course, if you get worried about some of this stuff. It was fascinating. I went in for some reason, I forget exactly what it was, but I went in and found on my Mac the list, a huge list, 500 cookies. And I went through and culled the list manually. It's the only way to do it, just about accepting list the whole list. And suddenly, everything got faster, number one, and I didn't have certain pop-up windows that were coming up all the time. And even a couple of them that would freeze the machine, and that's when I went through and figured it out. But the information I got was somebody said, "Look, hey, you can, if you keep getting that window, here's the way you fix it. Done. Mark it. Thank you so much." It used to be on my tablet. What I had to do on, I forget what it was, on Facebook or something. I would get a thing that would freeze it. It says you're in danger of something or another, blah, blah, blah. And what I would do, of course, is to immediately shut down and go back and trash Facebook completely, the whole thing, and then reload a new one. And but it wasn't all that long before. But so what? 10 minutes, okay. But the main thing that I didn't do, and warning kids, don't do this. Don't do the okay part. And to do this thing, one of the things you can do, and this is what you can look on the tablet, was when you see the alert that comes up, Apple wants you alert or something like that, you look up and you see the address and it's gobbledygook. Well, damn well that's from some place you don't want to go. And I thought that was interesting. So anyway, let's see. It says here, the problem is not merely economic. A handful of people working at a handful of tech companies steer the thoughts of billions of people a day. Notes former Google design ethicist, whatever. A recent study of 10,000 people from 39 countries suggests Google has likely been determining the outcomes of upwards of 25% of national elections in the world for several years now, with increasing impact each year as internet penetration has grown.
Me too.
I'm calling bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
I am so calling bullshit on this.
Yeah.
It says, why is the breakup of Google unthinkable? Well, obviously it's not unthinkable.
Right.
This guy's thinking about it. Google's products are undeniably convenient, and they're free.
Right.
But average users are not paying with money, but with their personal data. And of course, they admit the company has a near spotless public image. A famous maxim from the company's early years, "Don't be evil," helped cement Google's public image as one of the good guys. It is ironic then, he goes on and they said they are discouraging competition, discouraging innovation, punishing American business, and distorting the free marketplace of commerce and ideas. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, They're part of the free market. They are part. Wait a minute. They're not distorting the free market. You know what? The
guy's talking about the searches as if they're outside of the market, as if nobody else could offer searches and nobody else could offer influence, and influence is naturally neutral.
In Europe, they were worried that Google was when you did a search, it would direct you to their own products, so to speak, or the ones that paid.
Okay.
You know, I know that I get from Facebook or something, would you like to promote this page?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you pay $2 or whatever for, I don't know, a day or 2 or 5 days, whatever it is,
right?
To promote the page. And of course, I've seen
that implies obviously some greater appearance in the search engine algorithm.
Exactly. And what's interesting is as I scroll down, like in Facebook or anything else. But here, I'm going to give you 2 examples of how you can you can see when they see it's sponsored. I just skip over those.
Right. Yeah.
Generally speaking.
So this author believes, obviously, that he knows what he's talking about, but that nobody else does.
Well,
I guess, and nobody else, none of his readers are even smart enough to just read his article, pass that information along, and then adapt their behavior to the obvious totalitarian Google that influences me via seductively easy searches and
right. Well, they certainly do. And one thing I have noticed is that part of the ranking on my searches is what I searched for before.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, very often I will go back and search for something very similar to something I searched maybe a month ago, and boom, it comes right to the top.
Well, they realize, obviously, they analyze people's searches and realize a lot of people search for the same things again,
right,
over and over again.
Right.
And I mean, the curve, I imagine there's a big curve, so that a lot of stuff that I know I do it, same thing.
Yeah, no, and so this is one of those things that, and here, as I always say, in an article, the last sentence is the meat.
Uh-huh.
So the last sentence in this article is, the time is right for the United States to lead on dismantling tech monopolies, starting with the most powerful player.
And there you go.
And then it says
call to action.
Call to action. Now, I will say this. There was more to this article. You can find it. I forget exactly where it is.
But you chopped it off, so that would be the last sentences.
Yeah, I chopped. Well, what they were doing then was, after that, the next whole section was how to start on this. Well, it was, I forget what it was.
First, we shoot all the Google people.
Yeah. No, it's but it is stunning to me, and of course our local commie newspaper here, Mullet Wrap or whatever, also has it's always a government solution to everything. So and we need, every time they say we need to do something, I'm thinking, who is this we of whom you speak? Mm-hmm. And invariably it's go down to City Hall and beg them to do something. And I mean, a perfect example of that, and I'm going to finish up on this. Was recently, while we were out of town at our pre-4th of July vacation here earlier this week, they found out they had a big boondoggle in Gainesville where they put together what they called a biomass plant, and it failed. I mean, they spent $750 million on it, and then and they had to buy it back from the investors and everything, but it's not working. I mean, it's shut down. Okay. And so we still have to pay for it. And so it's on everybody's monthly bill as an additional thing to buy this biomass plant. And it turns out that through some shuffling, some legerdemain, some magician stuff, that there's a little surplus from some of the money that they're paying to pay it off, and yet they're collecting a little extra. And it's like, I forget how much it is. It's like maybe $15 million or $20 million or something. There's left over, and so they've instituted about 3 or 4 new government programs to sop up. What are we going to do with this money? And of course, the first thing on the
sop it up.
Well, and with new programs, not
right,
so.
Not
and of course, the idea of refunding it just doesn't occur to them.
Oh, hell no. Once you got the money, look, this. I'll say it again. Taxes the entire concept of taxes is very clearly the ends justify the means.
Right.
The ends are whatever cool program you want. The means are you can literally take people's money. Once you've taken the money, then it's just a question of what do you want to spend it on?
Right.
You've already done the evil.
Yeah.
You've already done the harm. And so then it's just a question of...
Well, this is what's interesting is every once in a while you'll see that, well, we had a budget surplus this year. No, we didn't. They're going to spend it. There's no question they're going to...
Well, look, as far as I'm concerned, if they had a budget surplus, like you said, you refund the taxpayers, and then if the budget surplus gets so big that it pays for the entire government, then you just shut it down.
Right, exactly. Well, that brings up another thing. I thought, I'm just trying to think here real quickly, something zinged through my mind. Let's see, the budget surplus. Nope, forgot what it was. Anyway, that's about it, I think, for me.
Yeah.
So happy 4th of July.
Hey.
Don't get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you like us on YouTube, and we're going to try and post this on a couple of Facebook places. And also, what I'd be curious to know is if you listen, see how is the audio this time. We have a new microphone.
Oh yeah.
And I want to see if my voice or anything comes through any better.
It'll be good. It'll be good.
Well, you say that now, but we're not listening to it in real time ourselves. So.
Nope. Oops. Sorry. Oops. Dang it. These hotkeys don't always work right. This show brought to you by the Don Cesar.
Okay. Yeah, we were down in that neck of the woods yesterday.
This is the fabulous Florida Pink Hotel, where you can stay in a very small room for a very large price. But the beach is fantastic. This is it out the back door, basically. Nice wide beach. It's like 50 yards wide or something.
Well, not only that,
miles and miles.
As opposed to the East Coast, we have no stingrays.
What?
No stingers. What do you call them?
Jellyfish.
Jellyfish.
I was gonna say you got stingrays.
No. We got we do have actually. We have mantas in here.
Shuffle your feet when you walk in this water.
Yeah, that's right.
What it comes down to.
But no, seriously, we isn't it someplace on the East Coast they had to sort of semi-close down some places because of the jellyfish.
Well, they do regularly. The man of wars wash up there.
Yeah, they had a picture of not the man of wars, but they had which we used to have up in Maryland. We would have a flood of the little ones that would sting you.
Yeah.
And they, in those days you just didn't much go in.
Yeah. Oh, what we had the other week was sea lice.
Was that right?
Yeah, that was bad.
Okay.
Bad.
So people had.
I guess I don't know. It's bad. I guess it's like lice, but you get it from the sea. So.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound good.
No.
So we are the fastest growing podcast in the nation because we have doubled our listenership in the last month. Eat that.